It's 6 in the morning on a Tuesday, in a subdivision outside Columbus, Ohio. The Hendricks family is racing the clock before the hot water runs out. Dad showers first, then Mom, then their teenage son steps in third, and by minute 4, the water turns lukewarm, then cold. This happens almost every weekday, all winter. Meanwhile, in a 4th-floor Berlin walk-up, half the size of the Hendricks basement, 4 roommates shower back-to-back, wash dishes in between, and the water never runs cold. The U.S. Department of Energy lists the standard American storage tank at 40 to 50 gallons, a hard ceiling. European households mostly run on tankless units with no storage limit, heating water on demand indefinitely. In the Hendricks basement sits a glass-lined steel tank, installed the week the house was framed, model number still legible on a yellowing sticker. Nobody in that house ever chose its size. So who did? According to AHRI shipment data, roughly 80% of American households run on storage tank water heaters, while across major European markets, tankless and combi boiler units make up the clear majority of new heating installations. This is not an old house problem. Walk into a freshly framed spec home in Phoenix or Charlotte built this year, and the garage or basement holds the same 40 to 50 gallon tank as a house built in 1985. Consumer Reports and the Home Services platform, Angie, have both logged hot water running out among the most common service complaints filed nationwide. Not rare, not regional, not seasonal. It shows up in new construction. It shows up after full kitchen and bath renovations. It shows up in homes with 2 people and homes with 6. The pattern holds across climate zones, income brackets, and decades of construction, which means the easy explanation: Americans simply use more water, longer showers, bigger families, collapses the moment the numbers sit side by side. The usage isn't the outlier here. The container is, and the container, it turns out, was never actually sized for the people living inside it. Look closer at the European side of the comparison, and the gap widens further. Germany's residential heating stock has shifted decisively toward combi boilers and tankless systems since the early 1990s, and similar patterns show up across Austria, the Netherlands, and much of Scandinavia. None of those countries have smaller families than the American suburb. None of them have warmer climates that would reduce demand. If anything, German winters are colder than Ohio's for a comparable stretch of the year, which means weather was never the variable that mattered. Something else was deciding how much hot water a home would ever have available, and it wasn't temperature, family size, or personal habit. It was a number set long before any family ever moved in, embedded quietly in paperwork nobody in that house has ever read. Paperwork filed with the local building department the same week the foundation was poured, approved without a single inspector ever asking whether 4 people showering before 8 a.m. could actually be served by what was specified. Here's the mechanism, and it's simpler than it sounds. A storage tank doesn't make hot water instantly. It stockpiles a fixed volume, then refills at a recovery rate measured in gallons per hour. A typical 40-gallon gas unit carries a first-hour rating around 60 to 70 gallons combined, tank capacity plus what it can reheat within that hour. That sounds like plenty, until 4 people need to shower, run a dishwasher, and start a load of laundry inside the same 60-minute window, which is exactly what happens in most households between 6 and 8 in the morning. People blame the house. Too small, too old, showers too long. None of that explains why a brand new 4-bedroom home, built to current code in 2024, ships with the same 40 to 50 gallon tank as a house, permitted under Reagan-era plumbing rules. The tank size was never calculated from how this specific family actually lives. It comes from a sizing table buried inside the Uniform Plumbing Code and the International Residential Code that assigns minimum tank capacity by bedroom and bathroom count, not by behavior, occupancy patterns, or peak demand. A 4-bedroom house gets the same minimum whether it holds 2 retirees or 6 teenagers training for swim team. The pipes in the Hendricks basement aren't broken. They're functioning exactly as designed. The number on that yellowing sticker was never about this family. It was about a chart, and the chart was never about this house either. John Siegenthaler has spent more than 30 years as a licensed professional engineer specializing in hydronic and water heating systems, and the author of Modern Hydronic Heating, a standard reference text in the trade. He's watched the same scene repeat across job sites for decades. A builder calls a supplier, asks what tank size clears code minimum for a given bedroom count, installs that exact unit, and moves to the next house on the lot. Siegenthaler has publicly criticized this default, pointing out that plumbing contractors are trained from their apprenticeship onward to ask what the code allows, not what a specific household actually needs. That single habit, repeated across millions of houses built since the 1970s, becomes the reason families like the Hendricks structure their entire morning around a finite number of gallons that nobody calculated for them specifically. It isn't negligence in any dramatic headline sense. It's quieter than that. 1,000 small, individually defensible decisions, each one legal, each one shaped by the same minimum compliance logic, stacking into a national pattern of homes that can't keep pace with their own occupants. This wasn't one bad contractor cutting corners on one bad job. It was the same sizing table, applied house after house, subdivision after subdivision, for over 4 decades, and every family living with the consequence assumed the problem was theirs alone, never realizing the same cold shower was happening 3 doors down and 3 states over for the exact same documented reason. So here's where it actually starts. In 1992, Congress passed the National Appliance Energy Conservation Act, and a 2015 Department of Energy update tightened efficiency standards on residential water heaters further still. Both rounds of regulation reshaped tank specifications around one variable: energy consumed per unit of output. Neither round asked whether the unit could actually meet a household's real peak demand. Layer that federal efficiency law against the Uniform Plumbing Code and International Residential Code sizing tables, which assign minimum tank capacity strictly by bedroom and bathroom count, using occupancy assumptions written decades before. Smart thermostats, soaking tubs, or 2-shower mornings were common, and the result is a tank that satisfies federal efficiency law and local plumbing codes simultaneously, while still running cold by minute 4 on a Tuesday. Then add the builder's math, because builder math is where the decision actually gets made. A code minimum storage tank requires no specialized venting, no gas line upsizing, no electrical service increase, and no additional inspection beyond what's already scheduled. It is, dollar for dollar, the cheapest unit that legally clears every checkpoint between permit and closing. Builders default to it because nothing in the system forces them not to. Not the code committees who wrote and have repeatedly reapproved the sizing tables. Not the plumbing supply chain selling tank units at volume discount to national builders like Lennar and D.R. Horton. Not the federal regulators measuring efficiency rather than adequacy. Every actor in that chain is following the rule correctly. That's the part that should unsettle you. Now place Germany next to it. DIN technical standards combined with EU eco-design directives, layered on top of consistently high residential gas prices, pushed combi boiler and tankless systems into the default position across German new construction starting in the 1990s. Same available technology, same era, opposite institutional response. In the United States, 3 separate systems: federal efficiency law, regional plumbing code, and builder cost logic, all independently pointed toward the exact same outcome: install the smallest tank that's still legal and call the job finished. It's worth sitting with how invisible that coordination actually was. No memo passed between the International Code Council, the Department of Energy, and the National Association of Home Builders agreeing to keep tank sizing frozen. None was needed. The ICC's plumbing subcommittees reapproved sizing tables on a multi-year review cycle, and absent a coordinated push to update the underlying occupancy assumptions, the tables simply roll forward unchanged, edition after edition. The Department of Energy's efficiency rulemakings go through their own separate public comment process, focused narrowly on energy use per cycle, with no formal mechanism requiring cross-reference to plumbing code adequacy. Two regulatory tracks, running in parallel for over 30 years, never once required to talk to each other. That gap is the real mechanism, not a villain pulling a lever, a structural blind spot that nobody inside either track was responsible for closing. The frustrating part isn't that nobody saw this coming, it's that they did, and the timeline proves it. The Department of Energy ran tankless rebate and incentive programs throughout the 2010s, specifically because the recovery rate problem already had a commercially available solution. Energy Star certified tankless gas water heaters as a recognized efficiency category years before most American homeowners had ever heard the word tankless. The fix wasn't sitting in a research lab waiting to be invented. It was sitting on showroom floors at Home Depot and Lowe's, fully certified, fully available, fully proven in markets overseas for 2 decades already. So why didn't it replace the tank at scale? Manufacturers including Rheem and A.O. Smith had built entire production lines, supply contracts, and decades of market share around storage tank units. Accelerating a shift toward tankless would have meant cannibalizing their own highest volume, lowest cost product category, the exact unit builders were already defaulting to under code. There's no need to invent a smoke-filled room here. The documented incentive alone explains the inertia. Meanwhile, installing tankless requires different licensing knowledge entirely. Proper venting calculations, larger gas line sizing, sometimes upgraded electrical service for condensing models. Most plumbing trades trained under tank-era apprenticeship programs that hadn't meaningfully updated their core curriculum simply defaulted to installing what they already knew how to install quickly and correctly. None of this required coordination or conspiracy. It required only that no single party in the chain, manufacturer, code committee, builder, or licensed tradesperson had a structural reason to move first. The technology sat available, certified, and rebate supported for the better part of a decade, while the sizing tables that created the original shortage went essentially untouched on the books. Plumbing trade publications, including Reporting in Plumbing and Mechanical Magazine through the 2010s, repeatedly flagged the gap between available tankless technology and the slow pace of code table revision, framing it as an industry-wide training and adoption lag rather than a hidden secret. The information was public. The certification was public. The rebate dollars were public, distributed through state energy offices and utility-run programs across multiple states. What was missing wasn't awareness. It was an entity with both the authority to rewrite the sizing tables and the incentive to actually do it. A fix did eventually arrive, but it didn't arrive where the original problem actually lived. Tankless installs did rise, and sharply. Rinnai and Navien both posted strong, sustained growth through the 2010s in the US market, and Energy Star's own published figures show tankless adoption climbing steadily in new construction and in high-end renovation projects. For a moment, the story looked like it had a clean ending. The technology existed, certification existed, rebates existed, adoption was climbing, problem solved. Except it wasn't solved. It was relocated. Retrofitting an existing home for tankless typically means upgrading the gas line to handle higher flow, adding new exterior venting, and in many cases, increasing electrical panel capacity for condensing units, work that commonly runs into several $1,000s before the heater itself is even purchased. New construction buyers and renovation clients with disposable income got the upgrade built into their purchase price, often without a second thought. The millions of households already living with code minimum tanks installed under the old sizing tables, the exact households most likely to be running cold by the third shower every winter morning, were also, overwhelmingly, the households least able to absorb a multi-thousand-dollar retrofit bill on top of an existing mortgage. The same cost logic that undersized the original tank now underserved the fix meant to replace it. Solving the technology problem didn't solve the access problem. It simply moved the unfairness one layer over, from who gets enough hot water in their own home to who can afford to stop running out of it. The Hendricks family, in a house built under the old tables, sits squarely inside that second, quieter group, the one the rebate programs and showroom upgrades were never really designed to reach, and the one still waiting for a fix that solves the actual problem instead of just the newest version of it. Go back to that Tuesday morning, the third shower turning cold, the tank with the yellowing sticker installed the same week the house was framed, decades before the Hendricks ever signed a mortgage on it. It was never really about this family's habits, or this house's age, or even American water use in general. It was the physical residue of a sizing table written before most current homeowners were born, reinforced by a federal efficiency law measuring the wrong variable entirely, and locked firmly in place by a building industry with every financial reason to install the cheapest legal option and absolutely no structural reason to ask whether it actually worked for the people who'd lived there. Europe didn't solve this with milder weather or smaller households. It solved it with codes, directives, and gas pricing that pushed a different default into nearly every new building decades ago. America never made that same choice. Not once, not deliberately, not as a country. It simply kept installing the chart's answer year after year, subdivision after subdivision, and quietly calling the outcome a personal inconvenience instead of what the evidence actually shows it to be: a manufactured shortage, repeated on schedule, in millions of basements just like this one. The real shortage was never water. It was foresight, the kind nobody was required to build into the standard, decades before anyone in that house ever turned on the shower.